Have you ever wondered why it feels nearly impossible to replace the battery in your smartphone these days? Once upon a time, if your phone battery started to lose juice, you could pop off the back cover, swap in a brand new battery, and voila, good as new. But now, forget about it. You practically need a toolkit, a heat gun, and the steady hands of a trained surgeon to replace a modern phone battery. Why? Why have mobile companies made battery replacement so complicated? Is it just technological progress, or are we being scammed in ways we don't fully realize yet? Let's start with a little history. Back in the day of classic phones, like the old Nokias and early Android devices, user-replaceable batteries were the standard. You didn't even think twice about it. That convenience wasn't just a design choice, it was a necessity. Batteries degrade over time, and making the replacement quick and easy ensured that phones could last longer. But somewhere along the line, manufacturers started shifting towards sealed phones with non-removable batteries, and they didn't look back. Why? But somewhere along the line, manufacturers started shifting towards sealed phones with non-removable batteries, and they didn't look back. Why? Why have mobile companies made battery replacements so complicated? Is it just technological progress, or are we being scammed in ways we don't fully realize yet? Let's start with a little history. Back in the day of classic phones like the old Nokias and early Android devices, user-replaceable batteries were the standard. You didn't even think twice about it. That convenience wasn't just a design choice, it was a necessity. Batteries degrade over time, and making the replacement quick and easy ensured that phones could last longer. But somewhere along the line, manufacturers started shifting towards sealed phones with non-removable batteries, and they didn't look back. Why? Well, the official reasons sound convincing at first. Smartphone companies claim that sealing the battery allows for sleeker designs, better water and dust resistance, and improved overall durability. And sure, those are all legitimate advantages to a sealed device. You can't deny that today's phones are thinner, more polished, and, at least on paper, more protected from the elements than older models. Plus, sealing the battery offers manufacturers more freedom to optimize the internal layout of the phone, squeezing in more features while maximizing battery capacity. But let's dig a little deeper, because these advantages only tell part of the story, and what lies beneath paints a very different picture. One of the biggest drivers behind this shift, though no company will admit it outright, is the push toward planned obsolescence. In plain terms, planned obsolescence is the practice of designing products to intentionally have a limited lifespan. Sealed batteries ensure that as soon as your battery degrades, and it will after around 2 or 3 years of regular use, you're faced with a tough choice. Either you jump through hoops and pay a hefty fee to have the manufacturer or a repair shop replace the battery for you, or you throw up your hands in frustration and upgrade to the next shiny new model. And guess who benefits massively from you buying new phones every few years? That's right, the same companies that made it so hard for you to replace your battery in the first place. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. Sealed batteries also make a smartphone much harder to repair in general, not just for you, but for independent repair shops as well. This ties into another issue that's been gaining traction: the right to repair movement. By making repairs more difficult and proprietary, manufacturers create a closed ecosystem where they control who gets to fix their devices and how much it costs. Want to replace a battery? Guess what? Many manufacturers now glue their batteries deep inside the phone, so removing them without damaging your device becomes an ordeal. Want to do it yourself or go to a third-party repair shop to save money? Good luck, because many companies don't just make the process complex, they actively discourage it by locking software features to only authorized repairs or withholding repair parts and tools from independent technicians. Here's where things get really infuriating. Making battery replacement difficult doesn't just affect your wallet, it also takes a significant toll on the environment. Batteries are one of the most common failure points in a smartphone, but if you can't replace the battery easily, you're much more likely to toss the entire device away when it starts losing charge. And what happens to all those discarded phones? Many end up in landfills, leaking harmful chemicals into the environment, or being shipped to developing countries where e-waste recycling practices are often unsafe and exploitative. Meanwhile, the companies responsible get to parade around their green initiatives, claiming they're working towards sustainability because their devices are made with 5% recycled materials. But let's be honest, it would be far more sustainable to make phones with replaceable batteries that allow them to stay in use for years longer. It's hard not to see the hypocrisy here. So, is this really all just a scam to force you into upgrading sooner? Well, that's one perspective, but it's also worth considering the technological and economic pressures driving these choices. For one, competition in the smartphone market is absolutely cutthroat. To stand out, companies need to deliver ultra-thin designs, long battery life, and cutting-edge features, all while keeping costs down. Some engineers argue that user-replaceable batteries actually limit what's possible in terms of design and performance. After all, a sealed battery can be custom-made to fit perfectly within the phone's internal architecture, unlike the chunky, standardized replaceable batteries of old. And it's not only about engineering either. Consumer behavior plays a part too. If we're being completely honest, most people over the past decade have shown a clear preference for sleek, compact phones over ones with easily replaceable components. But here's the thing, this doesn't mean the current system is inevitable or unchangeable. If anything, it underscores the need for real change in how we think about smartphone manufacturing. With so much attention on climate change and sustainable practices, the time is ripe for consumer demand to shift. Imagine if smartphones came with batteries that were both high-performing and easy to swap out. Imagine if manufacturers embraced repairability as a feature instead of a bug. It would save users money, extend the lifespan of devices, and massively reduce e-waste. And let's not forget, it would throw a wrench into the cycle of forced upgrades that feels less like technological advancement and more like corporate manipulation. In fact, some governments and organizations are starting to push back against the status quo. The European Union, for example, recently introduced legislation requiring electronic devices to be more repairable and sustainable, which could include having easier-to-replace batteries. Meanwhile, advocacy groups like iFixit are raising awareness and giving consumers the tools and knowledge to fight back. There are even startups attempting to disrupt the industry by offering modular, repairable smartphones like the Fairphone. So what can we do as consumers? First, stay informed. Understanding the reasons behind this trend is the first step. Support companies and products that prioritize repairability and sustainability, even if they're not as mainstream. Push for legislation like the EU's right to repair laws in your country. And for those who aren't afraid of a challenge, learn how to repair your own devices. It might save you money and send a clear message to manufacturers while you're at it. The reality is this: smartphone companies might try to sell us the idea that glue-sealed batteries and complicated designs are just the price of progress. But we know better now, don't we? We're not just paying for more advanced tech, we're paying the price for convenience, control, and planned obsolescence. So the next time your phone battery fails and you stare at that sleek but stubbornly sealed device, remember, it didn't have to be this way. But as long as we accept it, it always will be.